Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on upgrading your Microsoft ERP to Business Central. So for those of you who are new, I'm Danielle, and I'm your official Davin webinar host. And today we'll be talking about upgrading your ERP to Business Central. I know that moving from an on-premise ERP to the cloud is a big decision. It takes a lot of time, a lot of planning, a lot of resources, but we want to provide you guys with the insights, strategies, and information you need to make the best choice for your business. So before we begin, I want to give you guys a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, this session is being recorded and we'll be sending to all attendees afterward. Also, if you have any questions during the session, you can feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll be saving them for our live Q&A at the end, where we will be answering them in full detail. Thirdly, and this is the most exciting part, pay close attention because we'll have a quiz at the end. And if you know anything about Davin quizzes, you know that there are awesome prizes. And finally, later in the session, we'll hear from one of our clients who recently implemented Business Central. So stay tuned for their first-hand experience. Now, before we dive in, I want to take a moment to introduce Davin for those of you who are new, and just a refresher for those of you who are already familiar with us. So we are a Microsoft partner, the largest in the region, with over 25 years of experience. So we help businesses across the Caribbean successfully implement ERP, CRM, cloud, data, and security solutions. We specialize in guiding businesses through digital transformation and helping them move from legacy platforms to modern cloud-based solutions. Here's a quick look at our solution offerings. And of course, we've had the privilege of working with some incredible organizations over the years. Here are a few of them. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Nicholas Xavier. He is one of our senior business analysts here at Davin, and he is actually our Business Central boss, I call him. So, Nicholas, whenever you're ready, feel free to jump on.
All right, thanks Danielle for the nice introduction. I wouldn't go so far as to say in Business Central boss. My colleague Arif Ali is also on the call, and he has like 15 years of experience with Business Central. So if anybody has deserved that title, it's definitely him. All right, so good day, everybody. What we are going to dive into today is, as Danielle said, Business Central. We're going to cover it very briefly at a certain point during the demo phase, but the first initial set of slides is going to be oriented around informing you and giving you the knowledge to decide on whether upgrading or migrating to Business Central from Great Plains or SL is the right move for you right now, and what other questions you need to ask of yourself and your internal processes to make sure you understand what is needed of you. We are going to give you some questions to ask. We're going to give you a lot of information. So please, as the questions arise, you can just post them in the chat, as Daniel had said, and we will address them later on. All right, nice. So let's move on. Okay, so what is Business Central? Business Central is a postmodern ERP system that is offered by Microsoft. It fits within the Microsoft Dynamics 365 ecosystem. So when you are investing in Business Central, you're not only investing in an ERP that's in the SaaS and all the upgrades and the nice features with the AI, you're also investing in the abilities to integrate seamlessly with all the other Microsoft products within the ecosystem. Just like you see in here, it's free of charge will integrate with Microsoft Teams, allowing you to share documents from Business Central through Teams without any problem. Even embedding Business Central into your Teams channels. You can integrate Power BI, CRM, Dynamics 365 Sales, as well as take advantage of all the free offers that you get with AI embedded in Business Central itself. So within Business Central, you're going to hear us talking a lot about Copilot. Business Central does have its own native Copilot specifically for Business Central. It is also not going to be trained on a ERP data, right? Because everybody's always worried about the privacy. It is not trained on your ERP data. It will answer questions when posted about your data, but it is never going to share that data with the overall model. You also have the ability to take advantage of the low-code applications within the Power Platform realm so that you could build out custom solutions specific for your organization that can easily integrate with your ERP system being Business Central. So what does Business Central give you? As I said, it's an ERP, so it does your finance and accounting, it does the CRM and marketing, it does sales, purchasing, inventory, warehousing, project management, supply chain, service management, and manufacturing. So it does a lot. But how Business Central has been designed is that it will give us all of this, but all of this can be generic in given your competitive advantages that you try to, enhance in your industry. So with that knowledge, Microsoft has designed Business Central for easy extensibility. That meaning we can easily extend the code and make it special for your particular industry. A prime example is our partner LS Retail. LS Retail has built out a massively robust retail extension that is not an API. It just extends and builds on top Business Central code. And that specializes and introduces new features within Business Central for the retail environment, like the point of sale and a bunch of different things that is not out of the box with Business Central. So this extensibility is part of the advantage you get when you invest in a postmodern ERP system. Right, so migrating from GP to SL. So before we get into this, for the SL clients on the call, the migration tool that I'm going to be talking about is also available for SL, but was literally just released in either December or January. So it's very new out on the market. We have not gotten the ability to deep dive into it and pressure test it, but all the migration tools Microsoft has released, whether it's for moving from GP or BC to Business Central SaaS, I have yet to encounter any issues, and we have 6 or 7 migrations on our belt within the last year. All right. So challenges you face with your on-premise solution, right? The main one that is on the forefront of everybody's mind is always security. The Caribbean has been hit consistently with ransomware attacks. I myself experienced this while on site in a client in Dominica. The moment I went there to upgrade them and migrate them to SaaS, actually, and the last day I was there, they got hit with a ransomware attack. Now, luckily, because everybody was, the whole system and company was in SaaS, they could still operate. However, their on-premise offline server for the grocery, in which that allows them to operate when internet is no longer operational, was hit. But we just pushed all the point of sales, which was 18 point of sales, into SaaS and had them operate in online mode. To this day, they are still operating in online mode because the system can handle that kind of throughput and pressure. The next part of this that I really like to highlight is the lack of innovation. An example of this is we had a client reach out to us sometime last year, and they were saying, Nick, we want to now authenticate our users when they log in into the system against Microsoft Azure Active Directory so that they can manage their users in one location. Problem is the version of the ERP system, it was Navision, so that's an older version of BC, was so out of date that the only technology available in that version is now deprecated by Microsoft and is no longer used. So they cannot take advantage of the new tech. So with being in Business Central SaaS, because you get updates pushed to you twice a year, you are always going to be on the cutting edge of what Microsoft has to offer. Right. So as I would have just mentioned there, so why should you move? You're eliminating the costs and the big part, the headache of maintaining your ERP infrastructure on premise. And then in doing so, because everything is SaaS, just like I mentioned before, you're going to be hit multiple times a year with new updated technology because Microsoft is constantly reinventing itself. And they're moving at such a rate now that me and my colleagues are actually having quite a difficult time keeping up with all the new information because we're in SaaS and you get to utilize all the applications in the ecosystem. You need to be aware of updates in Teams, updates in Outlook, updates in BC, updates in Power Platform, updates in Power BI. And that's just the stuff that we regularly deal with. And then lastly, the AI. So you're going to see in the demo a little glimpse of all the AI stuff Microsoft has to offer. It's still in what I would say its infancy phase when it comes to value added, but they're putting the building blocks in. We are going to see a massive value added in April when they bring out the sales order agent. And to give you a brief summary of what that does, the sales order agent points at a Outlook inbox. So when a customer requests goods, it will actually handle the communication with the customer as well as the creation and actioning of any next steps within Business Central. And the only thing the end user, being the salesperson, has to do is just look at the chat that appears on the right-hand side of the screen and accept or edit the recommended responses or actions provided to that salesperson by the sales order agent. In addition to this, as you might have seen online, Business Central is one of the top ERP systems in the world right now. And you have vendors from across the world constantly providing support as well as Microsoft. So you are joining a very, very large community of end users and clients currently using Business Central SaaS. All right, so let's get down into the gritties. You've decided I want to entertain everything Nicholas is telling me today, and let's consider moving from GP to SL. Also, something for you all to know, if you all didn't know, GP's end of life is, I think, in 3 years, 2028. So it's important to start asking you these questions or at least initiate the dialogue internally now. So first things first, what you're going to do, you're going to request Nicholas or Arif to come and do a requirements gathering with you all. So we're going to essentially interrogate you to learn more about what your organization is doing, wants to do, and is currently doing in either GP or SL. Right? Once we do this, then we can have a better idea of what is the best approach for your migration to Business Central SaaS. And I'll get into those strategies a little later on. Some big questions for you to ask are listed there, right? That is up for you to answer. We will probably also prod you on these things, but it's very important for you to answer these questions because it's going to tell you a lot of information or share information with you when you go through the decision process for this on where the health of your organization is as it relates to the data layer, right? Because all of this is GL entries related if you haven't picked up on that. And then last thing is for GP clients, we have a free assessment tool that we will provide install link. You put it on your SQL server, point it at the database. It will run some queries. It could be done at any point in time, doesn't have to be after hours. And then I will get a nice fancy report detailing some information about your system. So unfortunately, this is not available for SL as of right now, but once it does, I will know about it. So this is what the dashboard looks like. I get a kind of high level view here, but what's more important is I get a list of potential issues within your GP environment. Not only issues, but migration risks. So what we will do is we will take this report, digest it internally, and then have a follow-up meeting with you to discuss how you want to approach these. Some of these issues or risks can be mitigated or removed by your internal staff changing something or making some changes. Others you might want Davin to address because we have our dedicated GP team. So migration strategies. The first one is data replication. So Microsoft has provided and continues to maintain a migration tool that will replicate data from your on-premise Business Central, GP, or SL database directly into SaaS. So it's really easy to set up. It's quick to test. I could run it multiple times so that if we take in a snapshot of your data today, right? Say it's the Thursday and you want to go live Friday, I could run it Thursday. So I'll grab up all the data, put it in the SaaS environment, and then when I run it again on Friday, it will grab up all the changes in the data. And what this allows is that go live day that is so stressful because you had to do all your end of month or end of year reconciliations and then provide us with the data, validate it, make changes. It's stress is now reduced in not only stress, but time. And that time is what is your operational downtime. And we always aim to minimize the amount of operational downtime as much as possible, right? So the only disadvantages with this tool is that you do have a version limitation. It is only available for GP and SL 2015 and up, right? And if you have bad data in your environment, that bad data is going to be replicated into Business Central SaaS. So you need to make sure that you understand the nature of your data. Through that assessment tool, we would identify the risk and you decide how you want to approach that. Also, it doesn't replicate all your data. And we'll get into this in a bit more detail later. So for example, project accounts, we need to manually input all of that. Now, when you get around to doing this kind of project, that statement may now be false because Microsoft is constantly improving upon it, right? So as of right now, that is just one of the type of data sets as well as your service module that is not replicated into BC SaaS. So the second approach is implementation. This is when we basically starting over and you're re-implementing a whole new system. The advantage here is that if you know your data is really bad, or if you no longer approve of the configuration or structural decisions made when implementing GP or SL, this might be the best approach for you to take because you now have the ability to bring in only what needs to be brought in and make changes to like your chart of accounts or your configuration or your processes to suit new features or functionalities in BC to enhance your current business. The problem with it is that this is typically the most expensive approach, right? Because it's basically a whole ERP implementation being done over. Some challenges that you will encounter is in order to do this, we provide you with an Excel sheet. You fill out, you populate it with data from your current system and we import it into Business Central. That is usually the biggest time sink and biggest challenge for clients to overcome and is the number one reason we're going to postpone our go live date. Lovely. So the last one is a combination of both. So if you have a scenario in which, all right, we're okay with what the data is we have, the health of it is good, we want to migrate that across. Cool, get some cost savings there. Maybe you're using project accounting. As I said before, project accounting is currently not included in the migration. So we will have to now manually import that into BC, right? So it gives you flexibility in deciding what data you want to get, as well as now utilizing the data replication for reduced costs and time. Right. It is a little bit more challenging than the other strategies to maintain because we have data coming in from two different directions. So it's two different processes that need to be managed and monitored and validated. Right, so now to the data. As I would have said, not all the data is replicated across. So this is the data currently being replicated across, and I'll just leave it up for a minute while I take a sip of water. All right, nice. So something I want to highlight here, though, is the historical data snapshot, right? So what is that? So your historical data from GP or SL, so this is all the data outside of your current open fiscal or accounting period, is going to be replicated in very detail and stored in the Business Central environment. However, it does not become part of your ledger entries. What happens is that you actually end up with a document style view with all the details of those ledgers, right? Those entries. So you can have historical receivables documents. And when I drill down into this invoice, I can now see the receivables applied to it. So I can still now assess and analyze the historical data, not only from the interface within BC in a user interface style like our document where you have a header and lines, we can also now point Power BI to it. And now you could have Power BI produce some nice dashboards that analyze your historical data. So that's how the history is going to come in. It's going to come in as a snapshot existing outside of your ledger entries, but it's still available in all its detail for you to access and a review. Lovely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my Business Central SaaS environment here. So just give me one moment. All right, so I'm sharing my screen now, and you should be able to see it any second. Okay, nice. So what you are seeing in front of you is the landing page for Business Central. We call this the Role Center. What the Role Center is it tailors the available metrics relative to your role in your organization. So right now I'm set up as a business manager. So I can see how many sales quotes I have open, how many sales orders I have open at any point in time. So these tiles, as we call it, give you a high level view of information important to you in your role, right? We can customize this screen to suit it as much as possible. We could also embed Power BI reports into here. So this role center is really meant for day-to-day overview of what is currently happening in the system for you to now drill down further to make better decisions, right? So as we go along in this demo, I am tailoring it because I don't have a whole hour with you all to suit terms and concepts that are existing in GP and SL so that you know that it is available in Business Central, right? So we're going to also go through the navigation quite a bit as we go along. So starting with navigation, we have all these little hamburgers. We also have quick links here. Any user using the personalized feature can now add more links to this so they can easily navigate around the ERP system and across modules by just clicking on a link. So anything that's a hyperlink allows you to drill down into it. So if I click on this chart of accounts, I bring up my chart of accounts. So this is a idea of what a chart of accounts can look like, right? So from here, I can now drill down into my general ledger entries. And I get my general ledger entries here. It has already been filtered on a particular GL account that I've seen there, and I could already see the related entries. So a lot of the navigation within Business Central has been tailored to reduce the amount of button clicks required in order to see related data, right? Jumping back here now, if I wanted to go and see my dimensions, which in a FL and GPI segments, we can see that here, right? I don't need to type in the entire word. I can simply type in part of the word and I'll get my dimensions. So segments, dimensions, it's the same thing. Business Central also has it. So that allows us to now further tag our general ledger entries and other sub-ledger entries for better reporting. And you'll see this as we go along, right? So let's jump to the general journal for the accountants, right? So this is what the general journal can look like, right? We have the ability to do the double entry, right? So this will balance off this, or we can do a single line. For this line here, I did the same exact entry besides the amount, but instead of creating a next entry, I reduced the amount of button clicks by just putting in the balancing account, which is the cash, right? This screen can look a little bit, daunting. So another way to show this is actually show fewer columns. And then it will change it so that it's a very simple view of just debit and credits with your double entry, right? And I could just change back if I want. So again, Microsoft put a lot of emphasis and investment into the user interface and the experience, right? A lovely thing with this is I could also do preview posting. So what this does is actually give me a snapshot of what the general ledger entries will be before posting the journal. So I can review it and I can see all my ledger entries and exactly what was created. Right? So that's my little case for the accountants. Now we're going to move into the standard process for sales order. We're going to quickly run through that, right? And I'm going to show you a neat little feature with Copilot. Let me just get my file up so you all will be able to see this action live. Right. So for your purchasing process and sales process, this is going to look and feel the exact same except for what is purchasing and what is sales. So I have a sales order created here because I didn't want to bore you all with just the general creation process, right? Standard stuff. What I want to show you all here is the presence of Copilot. So anytime we see this icon, right, I can now populate my lines from a CSV file, right? So this is what we're going to see right now. And this was very recent. This came out, I believe, in November, right? Let me show you how messy and stink this file is. So I copied a bunch of text lines into one column in Excel and dropped it in here. So it has like the unit of measure, some quantity, price, the name of the item. So what I'm going to do now is give this file to Copilot in order to fill out the sales order lines. So pretend that CSV file is something I receive from a customer, and I don't want to manually fill out 15 lines. I can just give Copilot it. It will assess the file, provide some suggestions as to what it thinks is the appropriate items, quantities, and I can change it at this point. I can also now show what is my matching confidence. So if I need to be super precise, I could do that. I will just have it as balance right now. And I can click in insert. It's going to put in all the lines for me, reducing the amount of time as well as user input error in processing or filling out your sales order, right? So again, I have the ability to do a preview posting, or I can just do a post and send. What post and send allows me to do is either send this via email based on the customer and the email associated with the customer, or just print it via PDF, right? We're going to ship and invoice this one time, right? And what is occurring here is that if any error appears, right, we are the system is going to tell you that there's an error and it's going to stop you from doing it. In this particular one, there was a pre-approved payment for this order and the values are off. That's because I went and changed all the sales order lines. So that was completely intentional. I just wanted to demonstrate to you all that the system does have error checks and in some circumstances can actually provide a recommended action based on what the error is, and you can simply accept the recommended action. Right? So once a sales order is posted, it will appear in our posted sales invoices. Right? And if for some reason there's an issue with the sales order and we need to issue a credit, I can easily come here, create a corrective credit memo. Right? It will put in the comments. I can adjust the quantities and I can post this now. So it makes that credit memo process very simple, straightforward, and removes a lot of the user input and possibility or risk for user input error by just utilizing those features. So a lot of time saving again. Now the purchasing process follows the same kind of flow, except for you'll just see purchasing here, but it looks and feels the exact same. Lovely. So as we're talking about items, let me just jump back a little bit here. Let's take a look at what items look like it within Business Central, and more particularly for clients that are interested in proceeding with an e-commerce strategy, how co-pilots can assist you with that. Whoops, clicked the wrong item. Let me just jump back. Let's pull up a chair. Lovely. So we can see our chair here. And what I've done is I've defined some attributes that describe the chair. Now, when you want to pursue an e-commerce strategy with Business Central, note that you have out of the box connectors with Shopify already. So implementing a Shopify site and synchronizing Business Central with it is made very easy by the partnership Microsoft has with Shopify. So they are constantly improving on their technology parallel to each other. And why am I talking about that? Because if you've ever tried to populate an e-commerce site, you know you need to write descriptions about the items. That can take a lot of time. You have to pay somebody to write the description, and then somebody needs to review it. Or with Business Central, we could just have Copilot draft a description for the item for ourselves. So you might be thinking, well, that's not about of time saving. If you have 50,000 items and every year you add in 1,000 to 2,000 more items that you want to pay on your e-commerce site, yeah, it does add, right? So with this, I can now say, let's change the tone to upbeat and let's do a tagline, right? Regenerate. And now it's going to shorten it, right? So I can keep this, and then this marketing text can now be synchronized and pushed up to your Shopify site, and that will then become your description on your item. Lovely. So now that we've gotten through those, we're going to touch on how we pay vendors and how we could receive customer payments, right? So very easy and quick. So registering customer payments. This is one way. I have all my invoices here. I could see the amount being paid to this, 2,000. We have a payment document number here, and BAPS, post payment, right? That's going to receive the payment into the appropriate GL and apply that to that specific invoice there, right? You also have the ability to do it via journal, but this is actually creating journal lines in the background. That's why you see in journal batch name popping up there. So really fast way in order to receive payments, right? And we could see that the remaining amount is still 202. So if we jump in now to the AP side of it, we're going to jump to our payment journal. So On top of the general journal, you will have these subledger or specific journals like payment journal, cash receipt journal, these different types of journals. That will be special, the page and functions on it will be specialized for that particular type of process, right? And what I'm going to do here is I am going to ask it to suggest vendor payments, right? So we're going to come here, click suggest vendor payments. And what we have done is we have actually prioritized our vendors within your system. And I'm going to tell it, okay, I have an available amount of $100,000. I want you to prioritize vendor payments. Can you suggest the vendor payments for me, right? I'm going to put in our starting document number here and click OK. Up. There's already payments in a different channel batch. My bad. Let's switch this to right. So this is essentially what we're going to get. I already done it and forgot to use the correct batch. It's going to produce suggestions and it tell you exactly what it's going to be applied to. These amounts are already going to be applied to the invoices. As we can see here, it is actually already applied. That's what this little checkbox is here, right? So lots of time saving, especially when you have such a structured approach to be able to prioritize your vendors. So you're never in a situation where you get put on hold in a top priority vendor that you need goods from right now. Nice. So a couple more things on the AP side. So I'm just going to jump to this purchase invoice here. So I created an invoice that I wanted to pay duties to customs for, right? I have approval workflow in the background that was triggered and it requests that I send an approval request and that it be approved by somebody. So what that looks like, right, is I am just going to pull this up here, is this. So I received the email with a summary of what the request is. I have a link here that will, if clicked on, it will open Business Central, but I don't need to do that to approve it. I can just approve it from right here and leave comments if I want. And how this is done is via Power Automate. So again, as I would have said during the slides, you are not only investing in BC, but you're investing in the whole ecosystem. And with your BC subscription, you do get free Power Automate licenses as well as MS Fabric licenses, which can be used for Power BI, right? So Power Automate now gives you an enhanced way of now adding automated flows into your system that can trigger a multitude of different actions to occur. And I'm going to show you some of the free templates Microsoft has here so you can get a better idea of what can be done, right? We could send emails. We could also send notifications in Teams, right? So when a customer is blocked in Teams, you could have in my Business Central, maybe because they exceeded their credit limit and you're blocking them, that can be sent to sales channels so that the salesperson or the account executive responsible for that customer knows that the customer is now on hold. So all this sort of automation and the integration with all these other applications within the ecosystem simplifies your business processes because you're now going to give that job or that time and responsibility to Power Automate or whatever the other application is. Right? And to give you an idea of what kind of integration you could get with Teams, right? Just bear with me while I pull this up. Demos. So in my Teams channel, I have for demos, right? I can actually pull up my item journal within Business Central here and actually interact with it and post it if I wanted. So I'm just getting some authentications, right? Oops, that didn't work there. So let's try the customers. Right, lovely. So Business Central is embedded in Teams, right? Even though it might seem like, okay, why I'll use that? If you have multiple applications that you need to constantly be jumping through, that can be an annoyance for some people that just need a quick overview, right? So from here, I can see my fact box here, and I could see all my customer statistics. So I could switch here, and this is all live. There's no synchronization, nothing like that, right? So given certain circumstances, embedding Business Central into Teams and or Outlook could be vastly improvement to the day-to-day user experience. That also gives you way more buy-in with your end user staff, right? Nice. And to end it off, what I'm going to now touch on is the reporting within Business Central. So within the last, say, 6 months, Microsoft rolled out the analysis view. So any page that looks like an Excel or is like this list and with rows and columns, I could essentially change it into a pivot in Excel. So I have pre-built these little analysis modes. In here, I've set it so that I'm seeing the item numbers broken out by sales per month, right? So this is your ad hoc reporting right here. There's no need to go and ask Davin to create a bunch of reports for these simple little scenarios that an Excel style report can work for. You can simply drag and drop the fields here if you wanted also. You also have the ability to drill down. So in 2026, I can see all my different documents and could see the quantities here on them. You can also now, if you create a cool analysis view and want to share it with somebody, you can copy a link and I could send it to your colleague or I could send it to Arif and he could click on the link and it will automatically pull up Business Central and build out this analysis view for you. So again, that interoperability across the applications is fantastic for these simple little things. It just makes the little things that are nuances and annoyances in your current system go away. Right. Now, for the GP clients and SL, I'm not sure what it's called in SL. I'm not the most experienced with Excel, but with GP, yeah, management reports, right? That is existing here. It's just called financial reports within Business Central, right? So we're going to take a dive into what this looks like and also a really, really neat feature when it comes to the board reporting. All right. So I'm not sure why this one is just taking so long. So I'm just going to pull up our next instance. Hopefully it's not my internet connection acting up at the moment. Okay, lovely. So we have these different combinations of reports, right? I'm going to take a look at this one here, right? Because it's the nicest to show. These reports are built on and report on your GL entries, right? I'm not going to go deeply into the configuration here, but this is basically built out as an income statement. I've also included budgets, and you could include calculations to determine the variance. So you could really have a lot of different ratios in these financial reports, right? We could adjust the filters. You could change the column layout if you want, so that we could just see the budget analysis and you'll see how it changes, right? I'm just going to jump back to this one so I can demonstrate this last little piece here. Now, you use this typically for, financial reporting, board reporting, right? When you're doing your board reporting, you usually need to create some kind of visual diagram to represent these figures so that it's easily discussed and whatnot. Well, you could build out a template that's predefined for these reports. So I'm just going to drop this Excel template in here. Going to click OK, and it's going to spit out an Excel template here. All right. This template, once this data has changed, will be updated with the data. And what I have done is I've embedded a pivot chart into it already. So you don't need to constantly be doing over charts and diagrams. You create a template and you reuse that template over and over and over. And the only thing you need to do is just update the data within Business Central. And with the end of the reporting, in November, Microsoft rolled out a suite of out-of-the-box free Power BI reports, right, which you're now going to get to see. And all we need to do is just configure it and point it to your Business Central environment. These reports are automatically refreshed once overnight or can be manually refreshed up to 8 times a day. So if we look at our financial reports, I'm gonna just dive in. These, I'm coming through the back end because this is my preferred approach, but these can be embedded in Business Central, right? And within Power BI here, just like with everything else, I can interact with it and the data will change based on how I'm interacting with it, right? We have lots of different ones that can be built out. And our typical approach to this is that we'll configure it, integrate it into your system. You will look at it. You're going to be like, well, we want some changes to be made. As of right now, just so you get some insight, these out-of-the-box reports are not customizable, but it is the intent that by the end of this year that we will be able to change it. Otherwise, our dedicated cloud team consisting of data engineers and Power BI experts can work with you to build this custom reports out for you. So you have all your filters here if you wish, and I'm not going to dive any more into Power BI, but you get the point. This is your business intelligence, and this is the future, your decision making based on the data within BC. Right? And with that being said, that's the end of the demo. Right? So Danielle, are we opening the floor for questions now?
Yes, we can, but before that, we want to just have a quick interview with Adish from
Okay.
Service. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, Adish, whenever you're ready, you can hop on mic.
Hi everyone, good morning.
Okay, I'm just finding the slide. All right. Hi, Adish. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, everyone. So Adish was not prepped or given any scripts for this interview, and it's actually our first time speaking live. So you can trust that everything he's about to say is real, unfiltered feedback. Okay, Adish. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions. So we're going to start with the first one. So, what were your biggest challenges that the company faced with your on-prem ERP? And what motivated you to move to Business Central Cloud?
So we had a number of issues. You know, if I go into all of them, we'll be here all day, right? But namely, some of the major issues were that we didn't have um, any real sort of analytics coming out of our current platform. It was, as Nicholas mentioned, board reports, right? Just your standard financial reports, extrapolating data and insights out of the system was tedious at best, right? Also, because it was an on-prem solution, we had to invest heavily in infrastructure. Given the whole COVID situation, etc., of course, working from home became a thing, right? And we had to develop and implement infrastructure and solutions really quickly to allow our people to work on this on-prem platform which was never designed for that kind of thing, to be honest. But to work from home and to be productive throughout. So those were two major challenges. Among others were process lead time, like things just really took forever to actually get from one part of our process to the other. Now, disclaimer, Service on the outset looks like a typical company until they get in and they realize it's very complex to begin with. So we may be an outlier, but certainly our processes took way longer than they typically should have. And there seemed to be no flexibility or way for this our on-prem system to really deal with our needs as a company. And that snowballed over time as the business started to grow. And that was really the trigger for looking at BC as the business started to grow and we outgrew this platform. It became the bottleneck for everything, and it became this tedious thing to work with, and it was a source of frustration for a lot of people. Hence our starting to look outside for a better solution. And working with Davin, of course, you all introduced us to the BC platform.
Okay, thank you for that transparent answer. I'm sure a lot of people are actually in the same boat when it comes to that. Okay, now we're going to move on. So, what was the biggest difference you noticed between your on-prem ERP and Business Central right after the go live?
Well, certainly right after the go live, and again, full transparency, our go live wasn't a cut across from Friday into Monday. It was a bit casual. So over the first, let's say, couple weeks to a month, what we noticed was that our teams were quickly able to grasp the navigation of the system. Business Central is very intuitive, right? As well as our processes were much more clearly defined, and persons were able to see the process from end to end on the system a lot better than they ever did with the older system, as well as the built-in sort of AI/BI technology in BC made it super simple for us to query the system, look at our fact box, and be able to glean so much more data from just a customer card or a vendor card or even a specific transaction as to what's going on, what do we owe, who owes us, which invoices outstanding, etc. It's so much more intuitive and easy to use than the GP system. And we've been live since January, by the way, right? So, we're still new in the go live sort of sense, right? But over the last 3 months, challenges aside, we've been seeing and hearing very positive feedback from the guys out on the sites all the way back to our head office, especially our accounting team. They've been using the system and really seeing the benefits to it, and all feedback points to them actually enjoying using the system and looking forward to more out of the system.
Okay, all right. That's great news. Thank you. Okay, next question. So, looking back, is there anything you wish you had known before starting your migration?
I would say the main thing that we wish we would have known was that it would have been such a smooth process to migrate, which might have triggered us to try moving even sooner, right? Again, to reiterate, Service looks like a simple company on the outset, but we're very complex behind the scenes. And even with all that, I must say kudos to the Davin team who has done the implementation for us. Fantastic job. Your analysts are amazing. All right. That process was very, very seamless and smooth, and any issues were dealt with in a very timely manner. Communication was on point. If I had known this would have been such a relatively smooth and easy process, we would have pulled the trigger a long time ago. And that's against the backdrop of us actually trying to keep our existing platform going initially, right?
Mhm.
Which proved to be very problematic regardless of what resources we threw at it. So the movement across the BC was fantastic, and the support from the Darwin team was excellent.
Thank you. You know, a lot of people actually don't realize that Microsoft provides so much resources for migration strategies. And that coupled with Darwin's experience, I think is like the model for a smooth transition from GP to BC. So thanks for pointing that out. And shout out to our analysts and our engineers for working hard to get this done. Okay, and now our final question. What would you say to another business hesitant about migrating to Business Central?
I would say that if you are currently on any one of the existing Microsoft on-prem platforms, that you are missing out tremendously. Business Central is just a whole other league, and that analytics, that BI integration, just the overall layout and navigation is such a breeze. I mean, okay, just to draw a reference, something that would have taken our accounts team, half an hour to do because they had to journal and they had to do this and they had to do that and a lot of manual processing is almost literally the click of a button in BC by comparison. And again, the analytics, if you want to know your business posture at any point in time, BC is the way to go, right?
All right. Thank you so much, Adish. I hope that, guys, this short interview gave you some insight into what the migration process looks like from GP or SL into BC. As you can see, it's not as difficult as you think. So thanks again, Adish, for your time and providing this information to us. So for those of you who don't know, Microsoft is offering a Bridge to the Cloud promo, which is basically a promotion to help on-prem users, so GP or Business Central on-prem ERP users, to migrate to Business Central Online at a lower cost. So what is it? What is the Bridge to the Cloud 2 promo? You'll notice that it's Bridge to the Cloud 2. That's because there was a Bridge to the Cloud 1, which was initiated in 2023. However, Microsoft so graciously decided to extend it until the end of 2025. So you guys have until the end of this year to actually take advantage of this promo. So as I said before, it's designed to help businesses transition from on-prem like Dynamics GP, Nav, or Business Central on-prem to Business Central online. So this is the offer. It's 40% off the standard commercial list price for Dynamics 365 Business Central. So you just get 40% off the initial price of this. It's available until December 31st, 2025. So you have the rest of the year to decide on if this is something that you want to take advantage of. And there's a 3-year term from enrollment. So it's helping you lock in these savings for 3 years. So if you're thinking about making the move to Business Central, now is the best time as this transition allows you to move at your own pace while benefiting from exclusive Microsoft pricing. So I hope you guys are
Uh,
paying attention to that. Now we're going to jump
Hi,
back
Daniel.
in. Yes.
Oh, hi. And I forget to give you one of the best parts of that promotion. Uh, and most, if not all, of our customers see it as a win-win. At minimum, all Microsoft is asking clients to do is to take the annual enhancement that they pay already and transfer it into these discounted Business Central licenses. So if you pay $2,000 a year, you you can change that initially into those discounted licenses, and you're still considered for the period of that 3 years a Microsoft GP customer as you move towards your migration. Or you could immediately transition off. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask in the chat or reach out to Kyle or
If you guys want to book a consultation or reach out to us, you can scan this code and click the book a consultation button.